Good morning, friends, from a very wet South Africa. We are continuing with funny and weird and different shape rulers and what you can do with it. So this week my turn would be my ever favorite mini oval. Lots of you might have it already and have seen how I create a central flower with it, but today I'm going to show you some border options. The first one would be a very plain and simple, just continuing and creating this shape. Remember, when we plan and practice on paper, we always use our drawing wheel. And what I have here is a 2.5 inch wide border, just as an example. Chalk line your center line. You need some reference point to line your ruler up with. And we have all of these fantastic markings on our handy quilter rulers that help us do that without having to add too many marking lines to our quilt project. So I am starting with my drawing wheel, which my pen is then my needle. And first off, with ruler work, place your needle where you want the stitch line to be. And then hook your ruler around it. That way you are sure that your stitch line will be where you want it. And that you don't accidentally place the ruler where your stitch line should be, forgetting about your 1/4 inch offset. So I'm going to do one full oval. Actually, I'm going to do 1.5, because if I'm starting on this end, I want to be able to do a full oval and then come back to this end so that I can do continuous line and carry on with that shape. So there we go. We're going to do 1 and go around again 1.5. Stop on the middle line and needle down position. Stop dead. Then move your ruler, and I'm aligning it to my center line that I drew on my fabric. 1.5. Stop dead. Move your ruler. Align everything. 1.5. And you can continue that way. So that's a very basic, very simple one that can create really nice texture if you're going to do a light to medium custom project. Now let's make it interesting a little bit more. I'm going to do this again. And this time I will return by offsetting the shape, half an oval offset, and work my way back. And we finish off with half an oval at this end, and it will be whatever you've got left over in your border until it touches the edge or the ditch. And that can make it just a little bit more interesting and add more contrast and add more texture. Now what if we add an echo line around our oval? So again, and now for the next round, we have again the different markings on our rulers. I'm now going to move up to the next line past the center line, which is a 1/4 inch away from the center line, and that dashed mark on the ruler I'm now going to line up to the center line of my border, which means I'm offsetting my oval by 1/4 inch. Same principle. Quilt on over, stop dead, move ruler and realign. And when I'm ready to move to the other side, I'm turning my ruler around so that I can have that 1/4 inch line on my 1/2 inch line, on my middle mark of my border, which will give us that 1/4 inch offset echo basically around my oval. There we go. Same ruler, gone through it twice, and you get a different look. Now it's all fun and games, so we can fill our background then of the rulers depending on how dense we want the work to be. So if we were going to up the ante to more medium to high density quilting, we might want to flatten the outside edge. And that can be anything. That can be a ribbon candy, depending on the style of the quilt you are working on. Ribbon candy works well for more contemporary type work. Or we can do simple up and downs. And you determine the density that you want them at. And just stretch them right up to the oval. We can do straight piano keys, and you can do that already with the same mini oval ruler. And what I do here is that I do the traveling in the ditch line. So I'm wanting to use some of the reference lines on the ruler to help me keep my lines straight. So I go up to the oval and back, travel in the ditch. Move over, up to the oval and back, travel in the ditch. And that way we can have a really nice linear fill right up to the curved shape. They play well with each other because it's contrasting shapes, and the one highlights the other. And by doing it this way, as I've shown in some of my previous videos as well, by doing your piano key up down on the straight line, you don't have to do any traveling and create magic in order to travel right on that previously sewn curved line. And it creates a much neater look around your curves or applique or your previously sewn quilt lines. So you would be able to then add any type of fill to create more texture and also to flatten and push it to a more higher level of custom quilting work. Anything you feel like. Pebbles. Or, you know, the very obvious feather. You can also treat your ditch line of your border as the spine and put your feathers facing inwards. Anything that's going to flatten around your oval feature line that you've quilted will make that stand out beautifully. Now let's twist things a little bit, and we change our ruler and we change the orientation. What if we do them this way up? So upright, in other words, instead of lying down. Again, I'm going to align my ruler, just find where I want to start. And now I'm going to work not from that opening slot or not from the midpoint on the long edge or the short edge of the oval. I'm going to go center line this way around. And again, we have a center line on our ruler, starting midway, and I'm going to do the same thing. 1.5. Stop, realign ruler, 1.5. And I really like the look of this upright oval in your border. And let's have another fun one where we work with it at angles. So what I've done with my border, instead of creating a center line, I've used my stencil and I've pounced 1-inch lines across the border. Now using a stencil, remember, gives us accuracy and also makes it much quicker to mark out this grid line rather than having to move and use your ruler. Because a lot of the times, depending on the fatness of the marking on your ruler and the pen you use, these spacings can end up starting at 1 inch and end up at being 2 inches wide, and also angled right out if you don't keep an exact eye on it. So stencils really work well for that. And what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to use the center line of my oval and align it with the 1-inch grid lines. So if I'm placing my ruler more or less in place, then I'm getting my needle position on the 1-inch grid line, and I'm aligning that middle line of my oval to the 1-inch grid line. I'm going to go 1.5 up to the next grid line. Needle down, stop your machine, rotate your ruler. Now let me move my hand so you can just see. Rotating my ruler ever so slightly so that that line lines up with the next 1 inch line at the bottom here. And I'm going to go 1.5, stop on that 1 inch line. Needle down, stop your machine, rotate your ruler, line up to the 1 inch line. And that creates a very interesting pattern for you there. I hope you find some ideas and that you would be able to go and play. We can do one more before I forget, where we play with half of the ovals in our border crosswise. So I'm going to just use these lines to start with. I have my center line of my ruler this way on the border line. Stop in the border, move ruler, realign, center line to the edge of the border, up, down. So we're creating oval scallops, up, down, up, down, up, down, completing whatever is needed to be done in that border there. And now we can travel in the ditch, and we want to swing our ruler so that we can get the same spacing on the other end. So I'm aligning the center line with the in-between line over here, center line on the border. Here we go. Go take your oval ruler, take a piece of paper, sketch out some ideas, and then go quilt. See you next week.